Hello and welcome into this week's episode of the Broncos Europe podcast. Obviously, here a little bit later than normal. We are pre-gaming this one, pre-gaming the AFC West divisional matchup against the LA Chargers. We're very excited. I'm joined by Kieran Morley again. How's your week been, Kieran?
Yeah, not been a bad one, Mark. Obviously, it would have preferred to sit here 2-0 and ever so close to getting it last week, I suppose. But that is football. We're back to Broncos football, I suppose, where heart is ripped out every week, isn't it?
But yeah, it always seems to be that way.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, it was one of them games, Mark. I think it's the most disappointing thing about it was the flip side. You know, that's what we had from week 1 to week 2, where week 1, obviously, everybody saw the offense stuttering. Defense was probably ranked first in the league. And then total flip of the coin going into week 2, where we just couldn't get a stop. I mean, don't get red zone defense wasn't too bad. It could have been a bit worse, I think, if that wasn't as good as it was. But, you know, the offense showed some improved signs. Again, there was still little bits that maybe need neatening up, but it was more positive. It was just gut-wrenching because I think if we had half of that sort of a performance from the defense, then we would have been laughing, wouldn't we? I think we would have took it away.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be every week we either have one of the sides of the football performing really well. Week 1 it was the defense, and then week 2 the offense decided it was going to click. So maybe week 3 we get both sides of the ball, firing on all cylinders and come out with a performance that will, if we do grab the win tonight. It puts us top of the AFC West, which is, no one would be arguing about that, would they, if that managed to happen. But yeah, we'll go straight into it. We'll talk a little bit about the Indianapolis game. Give us your highlights of the game, first of all. Let's start with the positives before we move on to maybe the negative endings.
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, we ran the ball, or at least we started to run the ball in the first half. We dried up a little bit second half. Which was a little bit disappointing to see because I think we were making waves with it somewhat. And then I think the biggest one, which I think everybody was happy to see, was the performance that Troy Franklin put in. That's just a bit strange one because it was a week where we'd seen some of our other key weapons probably underutilized. You know, Cortland Sutton barely saw the ball. Ingram again injured. I think he's still carrying that, isn't he? So. But so it was a strange one. I don't know sure Marvin Mims saw much of the ball. But the game that Troy Franklin had was, probably the one that cemented the reason why we drafted him. For that link up with Bo Nix. So very, very promising there.
You just mentioned that chemistry with Bo Nix, and that's what we wanted and thought we were going to see last year. Maybe not as often as we wanted it last year. But he's got those explosive plays. He seems to have those sure hands this year. And he seems to be the one who's open all the time. They were using him in a number of different ways. And he really cemented himself into the Broncos' offensive game plan. I think that's definitely something we can look forward to a lot more moving forward. The running game I thought was quite impressive as well. J.K. Dobbins with back-to-back touchdowns in game week 1 and 2 now. So he'll be going up against his old haunting ground in the Chargers, and I'm hoping for another big game of him. I wasn't as impressed with RJ Harvey this week, but if one of the two is firing, then I'm happy with that. And the O-line played pretty damn well considering. I think they only managed to sack Bo Nix once, I think, in the game.
Yeah.
So, that shows that the O-line is performing really well. It's nice to be talking about the offense in a positive way, really. We haven't had that for consistently, have we?
No, I mean we got it a bit last year in the rookie season, but we didn't have the run game to be last year. We've talked about that, and then we just then added weapons in the wide receiver room, the tight end room this year. We're hoping for a little bit more, but it was positive, like you say, that there was positives to take away from it. I think that's the key thing. It was a better performance, and I think that team with a half decent defensive performance wins your game. I think you're right with RJ Harvey. Maybe he didn't look as well. Maybe he didn't see as much of it as he did in those glimpses second half against the Titans and such. But he did have one big run still, didn't he? I think did he take 180? Was it 50 yards or so?
Yeah, he had the flashes, didn't he? Again,
Yeah.
now, I'm not saying he wasn't, he didn't perform very well. I just thought J.K. Dobbins was the better back and showed his experience. And I'd rather lead with the hot hand really, and that they sort of took it off J.K. Dobbins after the first drive, and I thought he was the best defensive player in that first drive. I'm not quite sure why they went somewhere else. I think you should just play the hot hand. If it's working, and keep on digging that. But yeah, it was a disappointing end to the game. We still had the lead going into the last drive, and we all knew what they were going to do. We managed to keep them to a long field goal. I felt quite confident when it was a 61 yarder. I think it was where he was going to have the attempt. And Sean Payne himself did come out and say that he called the wrong call. They shouldn't have attempted the block. Someone wasn't in the right assignment. He'd never been in that assignment before. And I remember celebrating when the kick was shanked through the right, and suddenly
as did everybody else.
Yeah, everyone was there celebrating, and suddenly this flag came flying onto the field. I was like, oh, it's so typical of Broncos country, really. This, and he was never going to miss when you tack on a 15-yard call. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you saw this. Did you see how many times that call has been called in a game before?
No, but I'm guessing it's not very much at all, because it's
once, and that was against us. That was us this week. So it's an interesting one there. Apparently it's the correct call. I don't know too much about the intricacies of those calls really, but I'll go with the referees on our side with them. And just unfortunate that we had the game in our back pocket really and threw it away, and it's gut wrenching.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think the key thing to take away from it is we shouldn't have been in that position. We should have had it done and dusted. The badly timed interception by Bo Nix. We could have had that game done and dusted, and we got to that point through bad play, essentially, where we were, and then we were relying on the refs helping us out. You're right, and I think there was videos doing rounds where through the same game they were showing where the Colts had done that in on kicks and such. But again, it's there to rule of the game. We shouldn't, second left 60-yarder. We shouldn't be putting ourselves in that position to make the referees make a decision. And again, if Sean zoned up and called that, then so be it. But to these little decisions that hopefully by sort of week 1, 2, 3, you get them out of your game, and because soon if they keep happening, you're running adrift and you're behind in the playoff race straight away. I mean, this game, this week against the Chargers is quite an early big divisional game, isn't it? Really, it's got some big connotations, especially with them starting so well divisionally. So, and it would have been nice not to have that much pressure riding on it, I think, is what I'm saying, Mark, going into week 3. But
yeah, it's suddenly become a must-win game, hasn't it? We thought that we'd be 2-0, in our predictions anyway. We thought we'd be 2-0 sitting here coming into the Chargers game, a little less pressure on it. They've started really well in the AFC West matchups. They played the Chiefs and managed to get a win there, and they've also beaten the Raiders. They could be looking at today a clean sweep of the AFC West in the first 3 weeks, which puts them in a really strong position. They're an outside Super Bowl contender for sure. That Jim Harbaugh is one hell of a coach. But yeah, we'll discuss that further in a little bit. Let's move on to our AFC West picks. I'll load up the screen. Let's just get that up first. But yeah, last week we both went 2-1. Obviously, we both picked the Broncos to win, and unfortunately, that didn't come through. So there was our only loss last week. Both had the Eagles beating the Chiefs, which all delighted that happened, and we both had the Chargers beating the Raiders. So an even record here, 2-1 on the board. I'm going to go with you first. So we'll skip the Broncos Chargers for now. We'll go straight on to the Raiders at Commanders.
Yeah, and I think that last week, the Chargers game against the Raiders, they struggled, and I think the Commanders had a tough one in week 2 against the Packers, who were kind of doing things this year. So already, they're looking quite well rounded. So I'd expect Washington to bounce back this week and pick up that win against the Raiders. I think there was, how many? Geno Smith had 3 turnovers. I think their run game is surprisingly still haltering a little bit, Matt. I think they're still struggling a little bit, the Raiders, in the run game. So Gino's throwing it, but last week wasn't throwing it too well. So yeah, I think that Washington bounce back and get back on top this week and send the Raiders to another loss.
You see, I'm going the other way on this one, purely because the Commanders are without Jaden Daniels, and that makes a big difference. So I'm not sure who's coming in at quarterback for the Commanders.
See if I can find that.
Yeah, I just think this is a chance for the Raiders to go in and grab a sneaky win. The Commanders are a better football team overall, but without Jaden Daniels in at quarterback, it makes a difference. Is it Heineke? Is he the backup?
Nah, not my Marcus Mariota's coming in. I'm not changing.
You're not changing. It's
Marcus Mariota coming in. No, full confidence. Full confidence.
With years of experience in the NFL, I'm going to stick with my Raiders pick. I hate picking the Raiders, but
was it Mariota for the Titans who passed it to himself a few years back? Who made that throw and it deflected off him?
He is a bag of tricks in himself, Mariota. He's a fun quarterback, but he's not a bad backup, is he? To have there. But yeah, I'm going to go with Raiders to overcome the Commanders. And then Chiefs at Giants. This is where the Chiefs slump stops. The poorly run team, poor team on both sides of the ball. Chiefs have to stop the rot eventually. But yeah, I think it's a clear Chiefs win for me, this one.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to argue. And do you know what? The Giants did improve a bit last week. You know, the Dallas had the squeeze past them, but the Chiefs. We said this before going in that the AFC West is getting tighter. It's getting more compact in terms of the quality across all four teams. I think that it's showing up. And I think we said this is probably the first year where the Chiefs don't win it for a while. I was hoping to be us, but the minute the Chargers are stealing the march, hopefully that changes tonight. But they've had two tough opening fixtures because of that, haven't they? The Chiefs with the Chargers and then current champions Super Bowl rematch against the Eagles. And they're still in both games, they're still competing, still thereabouts. So yeah, I struggle to see anything other than them, putting up a decent score against the Giants as well. So I I'll go on the same with you on this one, Mark.
And then the big one, obviously, we're going to talk about this a bit more in depth in just a second. Broncos at Chargers. Where are we going on this one, Kieran?
I'm back in our camp. The orange tinted goggles aren't off yet. I like the fact that we're probably going into this one again as underdogs, Mark, and I think that serves us well. Takes a little bit of the pressure off. Chargers are still
point underdogs, aren't we? So it's not a huge gap.
No, it's just sways it, takes the media off us a little bit in terms of that, that pressure, and hopefully, like you say, if we get the offense playing like they played last week and the defense playing half as good as he did against the Titans in week one, I'm confident. I'd be confident going into a lot of games like that, but it's what to be turned up, because so far it's been disappointing to have such a swing on both sides of the ball. But I am going to pick us.
I can't see the defense having as bad a game as they did. Vance Joseph won't allow that. He'll have some new, he'll have got them on their assignments a little bit better. Have been watching film a lot. It's just a big loss for me last week was Malcolm Roach not playing. He just shows up that run defense, and Jonathan Taylor gashed us for 200 all-purpose yards, was it something?
Yeah,
he just absolutely ran riot.
But we struggled.
I just think, and we will talk about this when we talk about the positionals in the next segment, but the Chargers wide receivers are better than you think. Obviously, they've got a great quarterback in Justin Herbert. The run game is Jim Harbaugh's, just basic bread and butter, isn't it? And they've got Hampton, who wasn't great last week, apparently. And Najee Harris came in and took a lot more of the snaps than he did in week one. So we don't really know who's going to be starting there. But yeah, I back us, and I probably will back us every game this season with my orange tinted glasses on, like you said. But Broncos win this one, and it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's, again, we said everyone so far, whilst we're waiting for the rust to come off and things like that. I think they're all going to be tight ones, and these divisional ones especially, they kind of can go either way. But yeah, I fancy us. I think, hopefully we'll get it ticking on both sides of the ball a little bit more. Yeah, I kind of disagree with that one either.
Yeah, and whilst we have a little gap here, I'm going to share with you this next, if I can bring it up here nicely. There we go. Can you see it?
It's on its way. Oh, yes.
There we go. It's an important one for us at Broncos Europe. This is our London Game Week event. It's going to be on Saturday, 11th of October from 19:30 to 7:30 in the evening. We're going to go till as late as we can. I think last orders are around midnight, but we'll go as late as we can and see where we end up. But tickets are on sale now. Kieran, you've got yours, haven't you?
Yes, definitely have.
Of course.
Want to be first in.
He's going to be first there. But we've got some great things planned, and hopefully some people to announce in the coming weeks. Some Denver media are interested in coming along. So if you listen to some podcasts out in America, and you might see some of those over at the event. But we've got a charity raffle where we're raising money for our chosen charity. We've got some massive prizes there, courtesy of the Broncos themselves, and our lovely podcast sponsors, I&8, have given us some water bottles, which I have here already on show. So we've got a couple of them to give away. We've got a jersey. We've got a number of different things, hopefully some signed items as well. So with your entry ticket of £10, you do get one free strip into the charity raffle. More can be bought on the night as well. But yeah, it's a great chance for you to come down and meet some fellow Broncos country members the night before the game, just to chill out with them, chat with some people from all around Europe, and just have a generally fun night. It was great fun last time we hosted one in London, and I fully expect it to be another good night. But we'd love to see you there. Tickets are available. If you go onto Twitter at BroncosEVAR, you can find the link on there. We'll move on to the next segment, which is our positional matchups. I'll just find the right one. What's your favourite? What are you looking forward to most in this London week? Here, I'm just following this up.
Well, you neatly had me heart pumping there, Mark, when you said you get a free strip on purchase your ticket. I'm glad you finished your sentence because I didn't know which one of us was doing that.
We'd have to give a lot of refunds out, I can tell you that.
But no, I think that's it. I mean, the football, we don't get to see it. We don't get to see them in the flesh. So that, will be the highlight of the weekend. But the stuff that's been organised between ourselves in collaboration with the Broncos and, and the meetups, I think it's just, again, getting to spend that time and chat to some like-minded people and, Broncos fans, obviously. So the whole weekend, I think there's some great stuff lined up, including our event, but some other stuff leading up to and on game day and such. So, yeah, just looking forward to the whole package, to be honest, Mark. Honestly, cannot wait. 3 weeks, that's all we are.
If you do see us down there, please come and say hello. We'll be out in the orange and blue, of course, repping Broncos Europe and the Broncos. Come say hello. We'd love to chat with any one of you. Just come pop by. But yeah, we'll load up segment 3, which is our Chargers and Broncos joint team. Again, like the Colts last week, we'll take it position by position. QB, running back, wide receiver 1 and 2, tight end, O-line, pass defense, and run defense. Just to clarify, this is on players who can play in the game today. If they're out, they're out. If they're not on the roster anymore, they're done. But yeah, we'll start with quarterback, and it's a tricky one this week, I think. Bo Nix or Justin Herbert? Where are you headed?
Yeah, I purely, Mark, because of the form shown over 2 games. As much as I hate to say it, I'm repping number 10 right now, but I think just off the form of the first 2 weeks, two decent fixtures, 2 divisional ones, as we've mentioned for the Chargers, I think Justin Herbert's just in really good form at the moment. So I think he sneaks it for me. I did like what we saw from our quarterback last week, and it's difficult not to put him in there. But for me, I think I'm sneaking Justin Herbert this week. And that makes us feel a bit nauseous.
And I've just said you didn't look well saying that. I'm going to join you there. He's had a stellar start to the season. I always say they're very similarly matched anyway.
Yeah.
Both former Oregon quarterbacks, I believe. I just think that they're very evenly matched. But Bo Nix hasn't started off the best this season. I think he was ranked last in the weird rankings. I think it's a PFF.
Yeah.
They do weird rankings, and he was ranked last in as a starting quarterback. But Justin Herbert, for me, he's got a good arm. He's sneakily mobile. He's got a good O-line in front of him, and he's got a bit like the Broncos, really. They are underappreciated wide receiver room. They've got some good players in there. And the tight end game, I think the tight end's out. Will Disley, but yeah. Oh, there's a bit of music going on in the background there.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from. I think I've leaned on something on my laptop, Mark, and God knows whether it's loaded up.
Distracted me for a second.
Technology problems. But yeah, no, I agree with you though in terms of those weapons, and they're like us to building that young wide receiver room. I know they brought Keenan Allen back, which blows all, but I've just said out of the water. But you know, you've got to have that vet presence. I think there, Cortland Sutton's ours, but they're building a good, strong wide receiver room, investing some draft capital in that room, just to give them the weapons. It's there, you know. You've got the quarterback, use him whilst he's in that window where he's performing well. So yeah, I think it's a difficult choice, but I think we've got to sneak it to Justin this week.
Yeah, I think decision made there. Quarterback, we're going with the Chargers and Justin Herbert. Now, running back game, you've got a choice between J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, Amari Hampton, or Najee Harris. But all four you could make an argument for all four going in there. Now, running back one for Denver is J.K. Dobbins, obviously. Number one running back for Chargers is probably still Amari Hampton, although Najee Harris did steal some of the snaps from last week, like I just said before. For me, there is a player who has started the season really well, and that is the Broncos' J.K. Dobbins. He's got back-to-back touchdowns. He's had multiple big plays. He's getting a good average on his carries. So that's what I am looking. Do you disagree?
No, I think Hampton, he led the Chargers in week one, Mark, and he put up 40, 50 yards. Last week, Justin Herbert led the Chargers in rushing yards. You see, I think Najee Harris come in and took some of the snaps away from Hampton, but neither were really that productive. So again, Justin Herbert, luckily, is looking really good throwing the ball. But I think the Chargers have had to maybe rely on that a little bit more, which suits us going into tonight as well. If our run defense, shall we say, is not up to par again. But I think you're right. I think obviously we've got R.J. Harvey knocking on the door, but J.K. Dobbins has come in, showed his vet presence, and hopefully, going back against his former club as well, can put up some big numbers to I told you so. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's got a bit of a revenge game, hasn't he, coming up? And I think he himself has said he wants over 100 yards on the ground. I just think he's looking like the running back the Broncos have needed for a while. That veteran presence in the locker room. He's what's the word? He's guiding and teaching R.J. Harvey along the way. He's not shied away from that responsibility. So yeah, he's good for the Broncos, and for me, he is the better of the four options we've got. Obviously, you've got Tyler Bidet in there, but he's not started too well for the Broncos. But out of the four, J.K. Dobbins makes it in there. Wide receiver one, you can take the lead on this one.
I'm going to make myself nauseous again, but purely off form at the minute, I think, and probably surprisingly to Chargers fans, I think Lad McConkey was the big name, but Quentin Johnston's come in and just had a really productive start the season, hasn't he? He's putting up the yards, 3 touchdowns, I think, on the year already. He's been arguably wide receiver one the first 2 weeks for the Chargers. He's been Justin Herbert's more go-to weapon, or he's put up big plays when he's getting the ball. So I think at the moment off form, you put him in as wide receiver one. I think he's going to be a big threat, and it'd be interesting to see if our secondary can have that bounce back, this week after giving up a few more yards than we'd like last week.
I do expect our secondary to have a bounce back game, and it wouldn't surprise me if PS2 is sort of either on McConkey or Johnson, and leave Keenan Allen to Riley Moss or Jaquan McMillan. They've got 3 really good wide receivers there in good form. Lad McConkey could break out at any point. He's not started off amazingly well, but he's that talent, isn't he? That can just spring it on and turn it on whenever he wants to. So, yeah, I think you're right. I was going to say Quentin Johnson here as wide receiver 1. Are we double dipping here at Chargers wide receivers?
I'm not. I could. I think we really could. I think McConkey's a great shout. I think even Keenan Allen's getting a fair share of targets and being very productive. Yeah. But I think we could even look on the Broncos side at Troy Franklin after the week he's had last week. But I still fancy our wide receiver 1 to come up and put some numbers up. And I hope, and after a quiet week 2 showing where he didn't see a lot of the ball, the players weren't going his way, that Cortland sees a bit more and puts up the numbers. But I think we've got, it's been a strange start to the season for the Broncos again. Like we said, offensively, kind of non-existent week 1, but Cortland was kind of there, he was the go-to a little bit more. Week 2, more productive. He hasn't seen it, but it's in his locker. So I'm open to discussion if you've got a particular, but I think I'm swaying away from. I think we've got some good weapons in there. Of form, you give it Troy Franklin, you get him in there and see if that connection with Bo Nix keeps going. But I think you've got to put Court in.
You persuaded me. I was going to go for Lad McConkey just because of the weapon we know he can be.
Yeah.
It feels dirty putting a double dip on the Chargers in there, but
I don't think it's a true representation of the strength of the room. I think the wide receiver room for the Chargers is great. Like you said, they're very much building what we're building. I can't take the stats from last week and go, our wide receiver room is poor. I just think it's too strong to not put one of them in there as a wide receiver 1. If our wide receiver 1 is not wide receiver 2 in this roster, then there's problems.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go with Cortland Sutton. Happy with that. Hopefully he has a big game here up against the Chargers secondary. What was that? Come on. Ooh, yeah, we're on. Tight end. This is a strange one because both of the starting tight ends are out of the game. Will Disley out for the Chargers, and obviously Evan Engram, the Mr. He's like a ghost, isn't he, in the offensive plan so far this year. He's got a back injury, so he won't be playing, which leaves tight end 1 for the Broncos, I believe, would be Adam Troutman.
Yeah.
I'm shaky that. And then tight end 1 will be Tyler Conklin or maybe Gadsden, who's the absolute monster of a tight end. Where are we going?
I think you're right. It's God, when you look at it, the what's no, just my thing again. I'm just trying to click up and see Tyler Conklin's stats. That's all. He's 2 receptions for 50 yards. I had music playing when I clicked it. 2 receptions for 50 yards. Gadsden's not really showing. So Will Disley's obviously the go-to when he's fit. You're right. I mean, for me, it's no question if Evan Engram's fit, that's the player who's more likely to make a splash, but we've not yet seen it. So put that down to Tyler Conklin or Adam Troutman. Adam Troutman's got a touchdown on the year. He's been involved, but he's got very low receptions, as is Tyler Conklin. Do we flip a coin?
I would probably go Tyler Conklin. He's the better, he's a more well-rounded tight end 1. If you're looking for a weapon or something to make it happen, he's probably the one you're looking for. You wouldn't say Adam Troutman is this sort of player in the passing game that's going to break a run free for
he's not.
Yards. And it's just how it feels. Evan Engram's your number 1 all day if he's fit and in the game plan. I'm happy that Will Disley is out for this game because the linebackers last week for Broncos were not good. And that's been kind to them. So I'm glad we've been torched by tight ends too many times. So Tyler Conklin is the default tight end 1 in our joint team here. I can't see us going anywhere else really.
No, I cannot argue with you. It's close. It's that, but like you say, is he more likely to come up and make a big play, a big splash potentially? Right,
O-line, another close one. This you've got obviously Mekhi Becton on the Chargers. You've got Joe Alt at left tackle, center Bradley Bozeman's having a good year. Sion Johnson at left guard and right tackle Trey Pipkins. Or do our experienced O-line, the crew, the starters there, do they pick the Chargers in that one? Again, both good lines there.
Yeah, and you're right. I think it's close, but we do. I think that's the experience has shown. Bo Nix is getting the protection. Maybe there's a few snaps where he might have changed his decision making, but I don't think it's because the protection's not there. The run game was working first half. The O line was creating those holes. I think it was one of J.K. Dobbins' first runs where he took it up the middle for 12, 15 yards, whatever it was. And the hole the O-line just parted like the Red Sea and made that gap for him. And it was glorious to see because we haven't seen that in a while, Mark, that run game. So I'm very confident in ours at the moment. I think, the week one struggles of the offense weren't particularly on the offensive line so much. It was just bad decision making. We were trying to throw the ball too much. So yeah. I'm quite confident, and
I'm happy with that. I'm a big fan of the Broncos O-line, and it seems to be stable. They only gave up 1 sack last week. I don't think they gave up too many in week one. I haven't got the stats there, but they'll gel as a unit again this year, and they'll continue to make those improvements and tweaks to the game to hopefully spring some big runs for the for the running game, and to give Bo Nix all the time in the world to pick out who he wants to in the passing game. Pass defense. Again, this is probably where the Chargers are weakest on defense. They've got some big names in there. You've got Derwin James at safety. Other than that, they haven't really got many standout players. So this one should be an easy one for me. The Broncos secondary is probably not going to get beaten by many teams this year.
You would hope that last week was by far just a poor performance after, and every team's entitled to them, every player's entitled to them, and it's just a shame when, whether it's down to play calling, it's just not understanding the strengths and weaknesses. But if you've got a unit underperforming in the same game, or a majority of it, it's just bad luck in terms of how you come out of it. But you're right, on the game at this moment in time, there should still be no question that ours, excuse me, tickling the throat there, but that ours is a lot stronger on paper.
Yeah, defensive player of the year. I'm going to say that every week. Pat Satani's going to have a bounce back game today after his rough outing, possibly due to the going off for the injury and not coming back fully fit. But yeah, he's going to have a bounce back game. Riley Moss going to lock up the wide receiver 2 on the other side, and Broncos pass defense is going in there. The run defense obviously was a bit shaky for the Broncos last week. Missing the big guy in the middle, and the linebackers just don't seem quick enough, unfortunately. And with the news that Dre Greenlaw is out for the next 4 weeks minimum on injury reserve, it's not looking great in that terms of that inside linebacker spot, is it?
No, it's a worry. In fact, I think Mark is probably where we're at with, Justin Stern has been a bit more solid than Alex Singleton, which is not what you want to really hear when Singleton's got the dot. He's the play caller. He's your defensive leader, shall we say, on the field. It is worrying that and don't get us wrong, Jonathan Taylor, we called it before last week's game, is a top quality running back still, but we flattered him so much. The tight end play as well, just that we just struggled against both of those rooms for the Chargers last week, and again, Chargers managed to keep the second team to keep Ashton Janty relatively quiet. If we're talking current form, I'm worried about how quickly. I mean, week one, we put the numbers up again, didn't we? It was there, but you're only as good as your last game is kind of where I'm at the moment, and it was so bad last week that I think at this moment in time, I'm probably edging the Chargers, Mark, just purely off form.
That's where I was going. I do think they played it really well last week with Gianti. Can be a game changer. We know that, and I'm nervous after oh my God, what's his name? Taylor gashed us for all those yards.
Yeah.
That a backfield of Hampton and Najee Harris can do the same. It's the bread and butter of the Jim Harbaugh's offense. He likes to run the ball behind that O-line. And Broncos are going to have to get that right this week and play a much improved game plan against the Chargers than they did against the Colts. So yeah, I'm happy to go with Chargers in there. A little bit more of a balanced team for us than we played last week. But yeah, it shows just how well matched these two teams are, and going into this game, it could go either way, and I'm not sure which way it will do. But obviously, we're all hopeful that the Broncos come out and perform a lot better than they did.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, you're happy with that. So we've gone Justin Herbert at QB, J.K. Dobbins at running back, Quentin Johnson and Cortland Sutton with the wide receiver positions, Tyler Conklin at tight end, Broncos O-line, Broncos pass defense, and the Chargers run defense. It's a pretty solid team.
Yeah, I'll take it. I don't want it though. I want to be orange across the board next week. Yeah.
So do I. So we'll shut that down, and then obviously the game kicks off at 9:05 in the UK, 10:05 across mainland Europe. It's on Sky Sports Plus, I believe, and NFL Game Pass shouldn't be blacked out, although last week there was an absolute nightmare apparently with that. So who knows what Game Pass will turn up this week. But yeah, it's been great to have you along with us for the ride this week. And Kieran, thank you once again for joining us. We will be doing a podcast live from the Admiralty on Saturday, the 11th of October. Hosting that with the Broncos with some very, very special guests. We'll be live from inside the pub, getting some reactions from people in there, out in the queue, getting some content as well. So, like I said, if you see us and you want to be involved, please get in touch. And we just can't wait to see you down in London. But for tonight, we hope the Broncos raise their game against the Chargers, and go Broncos.